Hello and welcome to the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. This podcast takes you behind the scenes of very successful mortgage businesses across North America and shares with you the strategies, systems, marketing, and philosophies of these businesses and takes you behind the scenes of the structures of how these business owners are building such incredible mortgage businesses. Our goal with this podcast is to help you understand how to create and grow a mortgage business that makes you truly wealthy. And that includes both the money and the time that you need to truly live a life of freedom. Now, during these interviews, I look to pull out at least 3 incredibly valuable and life-changing tips from each guest, and they tend to show up near the end of each episode for some reason. So make sure you stay to the end. And when you find value in one of our episodes, please take the time to head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It makes a big impact on our ability to continue to attract top performers and give you incredible value on the show. So thank you for listening to the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. My name is Chris Johnstone. I'm your host. Let's get started on getting you one step closer to wealth in your mortgage business. All right, we got it going. And hello, everybody. This is Chris Johnstone here, and I am here with Brian Creely. Brian, thank you so much for taking time to be here today and to share with us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Right on. So I always like to start off by just getting you to tell me kind of your story of how you got into the mortgage business, what your growth has been like, and where you're at now.
Well, I got into the mortgage business in June of 2002.
Oh, wow.
I got started by my first job out of college was as a teller at a local bank. And it just so happened that the vice president of the mortgage division was located in my branch, and just kind of built a relationship with her. And she said, "Brian, you would be great at doing mortgage loans." And I'd never seen a loan application, I'd never taken out a car loan or anything, So, I mean, it was all just, new to me, but I cut my teeth when the rates were 7.5%, and then of course that was right before the refi boom started, and I just been at it ever since, so.
That is amazing. And so obviously everybody starts with their first deal. So, you start with one deal a month and then you start to grow from there. Do you mind sharing with the listeners roughly what your production volume looks like now?
Yeah, I'm averaging about 12 to 15 loans a month. And average loan size is 245, so that's pretty, decent from a volume perspective. My goal is to be around 20. I could probably, do more than that, but I want to have a life as well. I like to travel and, and vacation, and that's what I feel like is manageable, and, where I can spend time with my family and, also have a little fun every now and then.
Absolutely. Well, you touch on probably the most important part in the mortgage business, which is the lifestyle that it affords us. And we can,
Absolutely.
we're not selling pencils, as Carl says, and that works out well. So tell me a little bit about the systems that you put in place in your business, because I'm assuming at one point you were an individual loan officer. You were doing everything. You were making the realtor calls, you were collecting docs, you were doing everything. What does your team look like now?
I really have done it all, man, because up until this year, I just opened my branch. I got my branch license December the 30th of 2020.
Nice.
And it has changed my life. The systems that we have in place, have just changed my life. And, I've worked the same way, for years, for my whole career until, I found success, mortgage partners, started learning about their business model, which is I walked in the door and I had a team behind me, ready to work on my loan. So I have a loan partner and a loan processor, and previous places that I worked, the philosophy was, well, build up your pipeline and then we'll talk about adding staff.
Exactly. Yep.
And our philosophy is that if we provide the staff on the front end, we're going to be successful, and so it's just really it's changed my life. I mean, it's given me freedom with time that I've never had before.
Yeah.
And I'm able to go and focus on bringing in business, as opposed to, chasing documents and, things like that. And I'm still very, involved and informed, through the process, but it's just changed my life. I can't say enough about the system that, I just can't say enough about it.
That is amazing. And so I know that you're a member of the Freedom Club with Carl White and that group. And time freedom in getting that first loan officer assistant and the processing help behind you is such a huge theme as part of that membership and growing those systems. So can you paint a picture for me of like roughly how much time you were spending in the business before December, and now roughly how much time you have to spend on the business now? Like what is your time freedom in your business look like now?
Chris, prior to, I was probably working 60 to 70 hours a week.
Wow.
Just having to be extremely involved through the process from origination all the way to closing. And I'm very detail oriented, by nature. So that was kind of easy for me to do, but I just got to where I, was working constantly. And, as far as, how many hours, I've never sat down and, and calculated that, that I'd spent on each file. But I do know now that I get the loan file in, I figure out, what's the best option, for the borrower. And then I turn it over to my team and I'm working on the next one, so, the amount of time that I'm spending, on a file is minimal compared to what I'd done previously.
That is incredible. And so can you walk me through what your system looks like from a high level, but like you take that file, you hand it to a processor. What does the rest of that process look like?
Okay. So I take the file, take the application. I do my own pre-approvals.
Okay.
I've just always, been that way. I don't issue pre-approvals until the file is documented. Learn the hard way on that, like a lot of people have. But I get the loan pre-approved. I get, most of the documents in, mainly income and assets, just to make sure that, what's in the loan app is what we can use, to qualify the borrower. And then, of course, everything is automated and done electronically these days, so it's the borrower. I haven't taken a single loan application over the phone or in person since I've been here. My borrowers all do it online. They upload their documents into the loan file, and that's the safest way to do it as well, because it's encrypted. And, so all the documents are in the file. So, as soon as there's a contract and a property address entered, it automatically goes to my loan partner in the system. I don't have to send an email and say, hey, this loan's ready. It just automatically does it, and they jump in and start working on it immediately. So
that is amazing. And so I'm assuming at this point you're not attending closings, you're not going to the title office, like none of that.
Yeah, that's been a change. Of course, COVID kind of got me in the habit of not going to closings, and I used to go to every one of them for a couple of reasons. If there was something that that I thought might be an issue that they needed answered at closing, I wanted to be there, but also a lot of times you don't ever meet the borrower, unless you go to closing, but I got out of the habit of it in COVID and then came over here, and they kind of coach you not to do that because you need to be doing things that's making money. And so I don't go. I'll rarely go if it's somebody that I just feel like I need to meet in person, and just to see eye to eye, I'll go. But I mean, I would say like 1 out of every 10 I attend. So
that's awesome. Now, you touched on a really important point there about time. So you freed up all of this time where you were in the weeds, or what we call, not the money making activities in the business. So now you're dedicating your time to the money making activities. What are those activities? Where are you finding your time and growing the business? Where are you seeing the best results?
Primarily just making calls, which is I used to be super shy. I'm not anymore. About 3 years ago, somebody came in my life that just, said something to me, and just something clicked, and so, I'm sorry, man. I forgot what I was saying.
Well, no, because, if you don't mind, I would love to dig in on that, because as much as, here we are doing a podcast and interviewing, I'm also a very introverted person, and I'm not really that outgoing. I would love to know what that person said to you, if you'd be willing to share that.
Well, it was actually one of the top realtors in our market, and everybody chased her for business. And I was not super successful at the time. I'll be honest with you. I had come through a divorce, and was just kind of, had to reset life, and I was just struggling. Every day was a struggle. And she just believed in me, told me that, that I had value, and it changed my life.
That's amazing. And it is so true. And that's amazing. And look at all of the incredible things that you have achieved since that time.
Absolutely.
That is incredible. Now, you mentioned making calls and doing outbound calls. And that is in itself, for many, many people, a terrifying experience. Like just picking up the phone and not knowing who's on the other side. Like, you have a name, but you don't really know who's on the other side of the phone or what they're going to say. And so those calls, who are you calling, and how did you eventually get over that call reluctance?
Carl White. Man, I believe almost everything that he says, and he's so genuine. And something that he said, just I was listening to a podcast, one day that he did, and one of the things that he said that if you're not getting several no's, then there's no way for you to get yeses.
Yes.
And in the past, I was so afraid of getting a no that I just wouldn't make the call. I mean, fear just overtook my day, and I would find a million things to do besides make phone calls, because I was so afraid, of getting rejected, so.
Absolutely. And now we celebrate the no's.
Absolutely.
And the daily tracking sheets are also a huge part of overcoming that. I mean, for me, simply because it makes a game out of it. For me, I'm a very statistics-based, stats nerd type person. And when I see the numbers, for me, it takes it away from being calls, and it's like putting points on a scoreboard, which helps.
Yeah. I just started using a tracker 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I went to a Freedom Club event 2 weeks ago in Salt Lake City, and one of the guys that was on the panel shared his tracking, and I was like, okay, yeah, I mean that makes sense, as opposed to just writing things down on a legal pad, and which a lot of times I can't read my writing anyway. So I mean, having it there to see and keep open, on my desktop. I mean, that's I'm not completely there yet, I'll be honest with you, but that's going to be my Bible. That's how I'm going to, keep up with everything. And something else that I learned that I had never thought about, which everybody else probably already knows, but I'm just kind of, I'm a slow thinker and a slow talker, but is that, what I was considering a lead was a loan application.
Right.
And so, you know, what I've learned, and, you know, this is also new to me, is that, you know, every conversation that you have is, you know, is a prospect, either a lead or a, you know, or whatever. So, you know, I'm still trying to get, you know, past the mental block on that, you know, but, you know, no matter who you're talking to, you know, having the courage, you know, to ask, you know, for business,
Yes,
you know, and so.
And that's so true. The Just Ask campaign, and I've lost count of the number of loan officers that I've spoken to that won't call their database because they're afraid of asking for the business, or that they're going to be seen as salesy or pushy or that sort of thing, or even calling realtors and asking for the business there. But just like you said, just asking for the business is what really generates the results. So as you've freed up your time from being in the weeds and the processes in the business, and now spending all of that time on the money-making activities, which is actually bringing in more loans so that you can grow the business, I know you're calling your past customer database, you're calling your realtors. Where do you find that you're getting the most referrals from? Is it from the database? Is it from the realtors? If somebody had to pick one over the other, which would you recommend?
I would say it's probably 70% realtor referrals and 30% past client referrals.
Yep.
What I've learned is that if you do a good job, and if you tell people, hey, I'm trying to, you know, build a business here, people generally want to help you, yes. You know, and so I just gotten to where I asked for it. You know, I was like, was this a good experience for you? You know, if it was, I mean, would you mind, you know, giving my name to your family and friends when you hear them, you know, talking about a mortgage, you know, so.
And it works. All you got to do is ask.
Absolutely.
And for our listeners, we also have a strategy that goes along with that. Obviously, you have to be calling your database at least once a quarter, and we can help with that if you're not. But in addition to that, what we also do is we take that database, we upload it to social media as a custom audience, and then we show ads to those people just to keep you top of mind. And that way, because when they commit to you after closing, or when you ask at closing, they're genuine. They truly do. They will refer you business, but we're bombarded with information. Everybody's so busy, they forget. And those messages just keep you top of mind, and remember that commitment that they made to you to send you business. So that's also helpful as well.
Absolutely.
Now, building a business like you have, Brian, and getting to that 15 loan a month threshold, and now onward and upward from there, what did you find were like the three most useful tools, or the three most useful things? Because so many loan officers are stuck at that level, not stuck, but currently at the level of like 5 loans a month to 10 loans a month. And it's a big jump. There's a glass ceiling at that 10 loans a month. What did you find were those like 3 things that really helped you just get to that next level?
Well, one thing is, and this isn't anything that's super new, but I mean, I genuinely care about every person that I work with. And, you know, and so I put myself in their shoes, you know, and treat people the way that I would want to be treated if it was me buying a house.
Yep.
And that's one thing. And I haven't always been that way. I mean, there was a time when I was, you know, I can just think of several years ago where I was just burnt out, and I didn't, you know, I mean, don't want to say I didn't care, but, you know, if I were being honest, I would probably say that's, you know, that's what it got to, you know, and you know, I had a reset a few years ago, and I was like, you know, this is a big deal. It doesn't matter whether you're, you know, buying a $50,000 house, if you're buying a $1 million house. It's a big decision, and, you know, and you're making a a long-term financial decision, when you do this, and another thing is, because of the refis and all that, I think sometimes we can get comfortable as mortgage lenders, and think that, that borrowers and home buyers, understand, the mortgage process, a lot more than they do. But if you think about it, they only do it, every, 5 to 7 years,
Yeah.
And so taking the time to explain things to people, if they have questions, as opposed to, just, blowing them off or whatever, I've made a point to do that. And let's see. I mean, the time freedom and the system, that I have in place, that our company has, I can't repeat it enough, that has just changed my business, and it's not this, that we have the, process of where, I have the team behind me. But also, I mean, if I get a contract in and it has a closing date on there, if it's reasonable, 30 days, or, I don't miss my closing dates.
Right.
And, I think, in the past, we're busy, everybody's pushing closing dates. I mean, it's okay for me to, because it's something that's going on in the industry, but I can't use that excuse. If you want to grow the business, you need to do, it's a contract. And so, when you miss a closing date, a lot of times you're affecting, several families,
Yep.
and, it's not just a number, it's real people dealing with, real circumstances of moving and things like that, so it's just super important that if I tell you that I can close something on a certain date, that I do it,
Absolutely. And that feels great for you to look not necessarily look a client in the eye these days, but to speak to that client and be like, I will close your loan on time and mean it and know that that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And you touched on another huge success factor that I think often gets overlooked, but knowing that the burnout that you were experiencing early in your career, I also find is also very normal in not only the mortgage industry, but anybody that's responsible for, when you go to work, you got to go sell something, you got to go generate business. Burnout's normal, especially when you're, the one-armed paper hanger or the one person who's responsible for everything, because eventually you get to a point, if you don't have the systems like you have now with the loan officer assistant, the processing help and that sort of thing, as soon as you go out and you sell a loan to somebody or you get that big realtor referral partner, your brain knows, wait a minute, all this business is going to come in and I'm going to have to chase all that documentation. I'm going to have to do all that work. And eventually, if you do that for long enough, it leads to that self-sabotage thing where it's like, you know what? I'm just not going to make my calls today. And you might tell yourself on the surface it's because you're busy, you got everything going on. But that underlying, if I get this loan, I got to do all of the work all the way to the end of the closing. That's intimidating. So to see you free of that and really excited about going out and getting more realtors and getting more business because you got the system and process behind you, I can't tell you how happy it makes me to see you at that point in your business, Brian. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I enjoy what I do. I generally, enjoy the process. I enjoy being a part of somebody realizing the American dream,
Yeah.
And, I just, like I said, I haven't always conducted myself that way, and it's changed my life. It gives me satisfaction, when I go home, every night that, that I'm doing something to help somebody,
Absolutely. And putting an incredible team together, providing employment for those people, and the bigger your business
Absolutely,
grows,
yes. Mm-hmm.
the more you're giving back to everybody. It's a phenomenal thing to see. So thank you again for being so generous with your time. If there are people that are interested in potentially working with you as far as a loan officer coming to work on your team, or realtors that really want to experience the incredible service that you give, how do people find you? How do they reach out to you?
Well, I tell people this. I have a coach with the Freedom Club, and I mean they're trying to get me to stop doing this, but I basically tell people, like, look, if I'm awake, I'm going to respond to you. So it's so I give out my mobile number, and and then I have a website. It's my name, briancreely.com. So.
Excellent. Well, I'll make sure that is in the show notes. And as you go to that next level, it's fantastic to see, Brian. And eventually somebody else is going to answer all those calls, and your team members will be making sure they get some great help while you're enjoying some time freedom.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the show today. It's fantastic to have you, and congratulations on the success.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's Chris Johnstone. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. I hope that you loved it and got incredible value from it. Right now, it's time to head on over to iTunes and leave your 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. When you do, you will be entered into our monthly draw to receive an Amazon gift card. So go ahead, leave that review today. It also helps us attract top talent and really get incredible interviews lined up for you so that we can share even more value for you. Now, for the show notes and for all of the resources that were mentioned in this episode, you can head on over to loanofficerwealth.com. That's loanofficerwealth.com. You get access to all the show notes from all the episodes, all the past episodes, get notified of new episodes when they drop, and we've also got some very special bonuses for you over on that page when you opt in. So head on over and opt in today, and we look forward to sharing the next episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast with you soon.